I'm setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level. Employed and Rising. I'm Art Taylor, the host, where you get to just talk about and hear from people who are doing great things in the world of business. And today, my special guest is actually my neighbor, Sean Longley. And we're going to talk with Sean about the multifaceted businesses that he owns, what's inspired him to engage in all these businesses, and some of his ups and downs that he's experienced along the way, both launching and succeeding in the various businesses that he operates. Sean, welcome to Self-Employed and Rising.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So Sean, let's get right into it. I mean, you got a lot of things going on. I want to talk a bit about your life and, how you got here, but let's talk, about your early life. I know you are a college graduate and you even have an electrical engineering degree. Talk about that for a minute. And I want to figure out how you transition from a great possible career in that field to now owning all these various businesses.
Right. Well, I was always a computer guy, computer geek. So it was kind of natural for me to kind of go into that arena when I got accepted into Morgan State and decided to do engineering. It was a tough journey. Took me a little bit longer than 4 years, but I did make it out. And I always loved technology. I was a big time technology person. So after graduating, I was able to land a job pretty easily and started working as a systems and network engineer, which things I really enjoy. And at the same time, that's kind of when I was graduating and in school, I started reading books, and one of the ones that stand out for me was Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So that one was big for me. And then I started getting into buying real estate. Since I was located in Baltimore at the time, that's where I started. So I started working my career as an engineer, which was a good career. Learned a lot of different things. Worked in government agencies and secure areas, even did some work over in Iraq for a little bit. And then it just came to a point where in the corporate life, I just really wanted to dive into something more of me having a little more control. So that's where I started just having the entrepreneur bug. And then as I started going more into it, I realized how much more control I have of my future and my money.
Well, let me ask you, did you have a role model, or was there someone who you were trying to follow behind, or did you mentioned the book that Robert Kiyosaki wrote? Mm-hmm. I mean, there were obviously some things that he talked about that sparked your passion, but were there actually people that you saw doing things that you said, man, I think I can do that, or maybe I should give that a shot?
Well, I think from a Jamaican family, since my whole family's from Jamaica, we have that entrepreneurship spirit. Mm-hmm. So I think I was born around a lot of that and that hard working and doing different types of jobs and things like that. But for me, it was kind of like those are good, but I wanted to now form this more have structure to it. So I wanted to be able to say, all right, that's great that I have this and I can do this and I'm able to make a little money here. But now let's put a business structure behind it and actually try to make it more sustainable over a longer period of time. So I didn't really have a direct influence, but I think the influence of just the culture that I grew up in pushed me to having more of a vision of doing more entrepreneurship.
Well, you mentioned culture. Culture is so important. I just think that lots of people don't have access to a culture or some people who are nurturing that. And to have a degree, for instance, in engineering, and then suddenly decide you want to start a business, that runs very counter to what we're taught. You know, we're taught to get a good education, go to college, get a college degree, get a great job, work your 9 to 5, and you know, finish your career, get the 401k, retire at 65, and everything's good. Nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But it's actually very difficult, I assume, to break out of that because we're so programmed to do it.
Right.
What was it that enabled you to do that? Just to break out of it and say, I got this. I can always do that. But
It wasn't easy, especially because it becomes a lot of sacrifice.
Mm.
You're so used to the direct deposit every 2 weeks. Coming out of school, making 50, 60K. No kids, no nothing, and you have a certain lifestyle, and you never want to go backwards. But then when you become an entrepreneur, it's kind of like they say, what you kill is what you eat. No more direct deposits anymore. If you don't get that job, you don't get the money to actually take care of your bills. So it's a whole other dynamic, and for a lot of folks, that can be very nerve-wracking. That can be very, very unsettling because a lot of people want to have that structure and that comfortability. So that's one thing to overcome there, which was, I guess I'm a little bit more of a risk taker than some. So I was wanting to actually, I saw the vision of having the ability to have your own control of your own destiny, and said that, I think it's worth the risk of taking a few steps back and taking this risk.
so let's talk about the risk part,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not in this alone, right? I mean, you have a wife, you have 2 beautiful daughters, a son as well. I mean, that's not always the easiest thing to do.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they don't want to hear about you not having that regular paycheck, right? I mean, how did you
Absolutely.
manage that?
Very, very gently and lightly.
Gently and lightly.
Gently and lightly. Honestly, you have to have a partner that's really going to, really, when they say be by your side and have faith and trust that what you want to do, that's what you really need. And I'm on my second marriage. My first marriage, it wasn't the same when it came down to that aspect. It was just different, and there's nothing wrong with it, but there was just a level of comfortability that wasn't there with that different switch of entrepreneurship. Now having someone that can understand that and then be supportive. And that's not just easy to say, just to say, oh, I'm just going to be supportive, because some people have these dreams and these aspirations, and, but is it really going to work? The statistics of the first 5 years of a small business, they don't make it. A high percentage, thinking to 80%. So it's a really tough thing to really do, and finding the right partner with you, I think it's going to take you. It's going to have you go a long way when it comes down to reaching out for your dreams.
So, some of us need to think about that when we select our partners, right?
Absolutely. That is so true. And having, I mean, especially with kids and so forth and so on, and it's just regular life alone. A regular people, husband and wife working a regular 9 to 5 type job in school, and the kids and and gymnastics and all these different activities that they're doing, and swimming. That alone is tough. Now put on the stress of not having that direct deposit, not knowing what you can't do that budget for the month, because I don't know what those monies are going to be like on my husband's side. So you're going to have be able to really have someone who can understand that and be flexible, when it comes down to it. And I'm blessed that we have the opportunity to have that.
I would say so. And, we, as you mentioned, know that businesses don't always work out.
Yeah.
But you managed this in such a way that maybe you didn't have to give up everything all at once, right? I mean, you were sort of putting your toe into some things while you had other things happening, right?
Right, and that's when it gets a little dicey, because now I'm trying to manage when I was buying real estate, and I was also the landlord. So now I'm dealing with tenant issues. I'm dealing with reaching out to a lot of different my different tenants and things like that while I'm actually in the office, and not being able to pick up the phone all the time and so forth and so on. So it starts to get a little dicey when you're trying to pick up that new real estate deal, and then signing all the contracts and things like that, and getting all that together and done.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're going to get into some of the real estate business when we come back from this break,
okay,
and hear more about some of the businesses that you're in.
okay, sounds good.
I'm setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level. Me today is Sean Longley, who has been talking with us about the various businesses he's involved in. And in our last segment, we said we would lead off this segment with his real estate business. And Sean, I know that this is something that you started with. This was your first foray into business. How did you get into real estate investing?
Well, like I was saying earlier, one of the books that been kind of gave a lot of passion to me was the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad, which he was big on real estate. And then also a lot of my friends that I went to school with and of some of their friends, I started having a network of friends that had like-minded. And I think that's also so important, your environment, right? And they were also in real estate. And I had one friend who did a really big real estate deal that almost went completely south. And he was able to turn around and save it and so forth and so on. So learning from those experiences, and then I actually did my first deal. He actually helped me with some of the actually down payment to do that. So I started building a circle that I have the same circle today that we actually own several properties together. The same one who helped me with my first down payment. And then his brother was an engineering major also, which how I met his brother. He's an engineer and now he owns his own beauty supply store in Baltimore. So there's that trend where, we have these great careers, but we also follow that passion and really want, and you see the benefits. But that was my network of people.
We're going to talk about that, but tell me a little bit more about your real estate business specifically. Are you investing in real estate, or are you flipping properties? Are you investing to lease? Or what are you?
A lot of my business is really investing to buy and hold.
Okay.
Landlord at the same time, so I'm actually manage my own properties.
Oh, okay.
At one point, when we talk about the other business that I started, I decided to say, you know what, let me get a property management company to manage that, to give me that more flexibility to focus on that. Now, that was one of a disaster that I can go into also, where how that didn't work out too well when it comes down to it. So, but yeah, buy and hold. I didn't really do too many flips. I know that was big, especially in the Baltimore area. I did maybe one or two, nothing too heavy. But my main thing was getting, holding, and cash flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now some people talk about having the resources to actually get involved in real estate. I mean, you mentioned you had a friend who was able to help you with the down payment on a property.
Yeah.
Where should people think about getting those kinds of investments? It's not like you can walk out to a bank and say, give me money for a down payment, right? So,
and we had a vendetta against the banks.
Did you?
Boy, because they were so tough. And when you're in situations where you're just not getting where you need to go, how people become more resourceful.
Yeah.
And you start figuring it out. A lot of my properties are already owned by personal investors. I don't even hold a lot of properties with banks. I had one lawyer who was also a real estate agent, but also an investor also. And he would give me a call and say, hey, Sean, I got this property on so-and-so, so-and-so. This person is defaulted. He understood as a real estate investor, the margins I needed. He said, I'm going to set the terms that's going to make it work for the cash flow you need based on the rents in the area. And then from there, I would go in because he knew I could manage it and I managed it well.
Mm.
So he didn't have to worry about people defaulting. So, and to this day, after almost 20 years now, we are still doing properties and things together
Fantastic.
when it comes down to it. So I just started looking for other avenues. If the banks are going to help me, let me go to private industry, you know, and it's been just been a great opportunity. So I just try to find different opportunities to try to get where I need to go.
Yeah, that's important for people to use that creativity and to not only give up, don't just give up because the quote preferred way of doing something isn't working. You got to find a workaround sometimes.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody needs a workaround. We always need to think in terms of workaround. No two people are the same. You know, now there's some things that obviously work and they work well. They've kind of been proven. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean other things can't work, right? So, and you've been in some evidence of that.
Yeah.
So, in your real estate business, you not only own the properties, you also manage them. Now, that's got to be time consuming too, right?
Yes.
But you have a skill set. See, this is something else because to be able to do that also required you to have a particular skill set. Is that the electrical engineering background or what is that?
Well, I would say that I think some of that helps. And having a little structure.
Okay.
And I'm not perfect
Okay.
when it comes down to it, but I'm a lot better than others
Uh-huh.
when it comes down to keeping things organized and structured.
Okay.
Because if you have that, it's going to make your life so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Bookkeeping, all those type of things that people actually, you know, maybe kind of push out,
Yeah.
you know, to other people. It's only me, and I don't have the funds to do that, so I have to do it all on my own as a part of it, right? As you know, as we start as entrepreneurs and as business people, before we can hire that person and have a budget for someone or assistant, we are everything, you know. So I had to learn. I've learned the hard way when it comes down to it. Not keeping proper books, not going about certain things, being too nice, being too flexible, you know, mixing business with pleasure in a lot of ways. And it's caused, I've learned a whole lot, but the experience and the learning has helped me grow so much, not just for as real estate, into other business too, and how to actually, you know, work through things.
Yeah, well, let's get into that a little bit, just the whole learning piece, because a lot of times when we look at something that doesn't work out, we call it a failure. To me, there are no failures unless you're not learning from things that didn't work the way you want them to. Right. I'll call it that. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to.
Right.
It's not a failyer. It's only failure if you didn't learn anything from it, right?
And I had a lot of things that didn't work out the way I wanted to. A lot of those.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest ones?
I think the biggest things is, you know, the type of person I am, and I feel I'm a very generous, nice person. And when you have the responsibility of housing someone, people might think like, oh, you're just a landlord. But, you know, some folks are not as fortunate as other folks.
Yeah.
And when you provide housing and you have tenants that never really had their own place per se, they're always staying with their mom or staying with someone or a friend, and they get their own per se. For them, even though it's renting, it's their own.
Yeah.
I have tenants that have been there for 20 plus years.
Wow.
I've bought houses with tenants that have been there already 10 years, and I've been there another 15 years with them. So to them, that's their home, even though on the deed it's not.
Right.
So it means a lot to them. And I have a responsibility, a part of the lease is to make sure that I'm giving you the property and keeping it maintained the way I'm supposed to, and they have an obligation to actually pay their rent on time.
Yeah.
So I've had issues where I've had tenants that are not paying, but then you have to learn about the system of actually eviction, and every city's different. And in Baltimore, it might take you 3 to 4 months to be able to get someone out. And then it can go on. And then the water bill, it's not in their name. It's a part of the deed. So if they don't pay it, it's on you, and they take your property to tax lien and they can sell it at auction. So now I'm forced to have to pay their water bill. So it's these things that I had to learn going through it. And I lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
The cash will look good, but then you don't pay your rent this time. Then you have to go through your eviction. Then you have to go through and then do the turnover and repaint it and clean it up and trash removal. And then the time it takes to find another tenant, you know, and there's some people stay, you know, back away from that. Oh, it's too much work. But then you also have to look at the positive side of things and the equity that you're getting with it, and the tax benefits in a lot of cases, and a lot of these different things you can look at when it comes down to it. I've had some tenants that have, didn't pay their rent, and they have Amazon boxes that come in left and right, and they're taking trips to Miami.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I always thought about real estate and that, boy, if I owned a property and I was renting it out to someone, what happens if the toilet starts leaking? And they never called me, you have the inner part of the toilet's just running, and then the water's just going down the drain and nobody's saying anything.
And that's a good thing because, and I'm away, I'm about a good hour away from some of the properties, and I have a few maintenance people that I try to rely on, but once again, I'm not a property management big company.
Well, hold that thought. We're going to come back to that because I think that's so. You're listening to Self-Employed and Rising. We'll be right back after this break.
Time. It has a different meaning in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It goes backwards, forwards, it stops. St. Croix is rooted in history. So much of it still remains untouched.
I remember running on these streets as a kid. This shop was right down there. It opened the same year I was born. This is where the original Crucian Hook was born. It's the symbol of these islands. And I wanted to have my hands in that very same history. I want to be able to pass it down to my family while still putting a new spin on it.
The U.S. Virgin Islands, we have an amazing culture that developed over time from all over the world.
St. John feels so untouched. Being underwater is like another world. There's no worries, there's no stress. I can just escape. This is my happy place. My passion for scuba diving came at just being fascinated with the water and wanting to be a mermaid. And this is the closest thing I can get to achieving mermaid status. Canadians just love being outdoorsy. We live for adventure, so we love anything hiking, being on the water, diving, snorkeling, and St. John has it all.
It's like some spirit is protecting the island and keeping them raw. The Makujumbi watches over the island. From up there, they keep the evil spirits away. The nightlife in St. Thomas is absolutely amazing. There's always something going on. Everyone comes together to dance and catch a vibe. We're always celebrating. We celebrate freedom, culture, the food, the smell, the music. It's always a celebration. The people here are probably the most priceless thing because they keep the culture going. There's so many different influences on these islands. Food from all kind of countries coming together in new dishes. All of us came from somewhere, but all of we call this home. The VI is a new melting pot. This is where the past and the future comes together.
setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level. Welcome back to Self-Employed and Rising. I'm Art Taylor, your host, and my guest is business owner Sean Longley, who we've been having a wonderful discussion with about his various businesses. We've been talking about real estate. In the last segment, we were talking about something that happens with many people who are real estate investors, particularly those who are landlords. Sometimes things go wrong in a property, and I was just thinking about what happens if the toilet starts running. You know, the little flaps on the toilet, they sort of wear out after a while. And if the person inside the house doesn't say anything, then you get this water bill. It just keeps accumulating, right? And so what happens, Sean, when things like that happen and you're kind of left with the bill, so to speak, right?
Yeah, and so you try to find ways to mitigate that. And one of them is just that educating my tenants. A lot of my properties are in lower income. I do have some Section 8, things like that. But what I have to do is that when I first put that tenant in, I'm educating them. A lot of them don't know these things. Some things I've realized I take for granted from growing up and working with my dad on different things and tinkering with different things, but they don't know. Show them where the shutoff valve is for the whole water. That valve right underneath the toilet to actually cut the water off there. The ones underneath the sink. And those are one things when I did rehabs and got properties, I put all those things in. Because sometimes the tenants are afraid to even say something. But I tell them, no, call me, let me know, because the earlier I can get to it, that's the less work and money going out to repair things, especially water damage. So education on the tenants is another mitigation for me to actually maximize my profit.
Well, you also talked about using a management company versus being your own management company. You've taken it upon yourself to be that. Why have you had some bad situations with management companies that you decided to do this yourself?
I did, and as a business owner, you start to say, I have to start to release some of those reins and say, all right, I have to let someone else kind of control these things. As I was going into starting a new business, I said, I need to free my time up from the calls of the tenants and the managing of the rents coming in. So I said, we get a management company to actually do that. Well, that didn't go too well. And one of the biggest things that happened was they weren't maintaining the properties the proper way, the way that I would prefer to manage it. They were doing a lot of shortcuts. They were just doing a lot of patch jobs. And with me not paying attention, the patch job turns into another job coming in. That's more money coming out. And with a property management company, they're taking that money right out because they're collecting all the rents and you get the change. So the biggest thing that happened is that they said they put a new roof on one of my properties and I paid for that. And then after the tenant called me about a couple months later and says, do you know this roof has been still leaking for about 4 months? And I said, no. I said, well, because I had the relationship with the tenant before transferring over to the property management company, they knew that this is not how Sean really operates. Maybe reach out to him now. And once I did that and I found out, I immediately went and I fired the management company.
Wow.
And then I took it back over and I'm actually still managing at this moment now.
Well, one of the important things that I'm taking away from this, Sean, is that when you're in business, you can't necessarily give everything over to other people to do for you. I know that's a pathway to profits, to be able to because you can't do everything.
Right.
But you got to check in, right? I mean, you got to know what's going on in your properties or in your business. You can't just turn everything over to everybody else. It's not simply I put some money out there and the next thing you know, we're profitable, right?
Yeah. It's about making really key decisions on who you're actually hiring
Mhm.
and who you're actually bringing into your circle to actually manage for you.
Yeah.
Management is so key. A lot of things I've seen fail and have been disaster and been money pits, the lack of management.
Yeah.
So that was a big learning lesson for me.
Mhm.
Thinking that I could spread my wings, but didn't do the due diligence of actually with this particular management company.
Okay, so you got some other businesses too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the limo service.
Yeah.
How did you get into that and how's it going?
Well, during all this time with the real estate, I was still working my 9 to 5. Actually took a job out at Walmart. I was actually living out in Arkansas for 3 years. So now I'm managing the properties.
Wait. You're managing properties that you own up here in the Maryland, DC area from Arkansas.
From Arkansas.
Okay.
From Bentonville, Arkansas.
Wow.
So that was it worked.
Okay.
Now, but once again, I had to get proper people in place.
Got it.
And when it came down to it, and then when I came home to visit my son and things like that, when I was working, I had to manage and schedule time to kind of do some of the things to kind of check in.
Mhm.
So, so once I decided to say, I left Arkansas and met my new wife there, and we all came back here to Maryland. I said, you know what? Now I want to focus on the full me just being a business owner and getting away from the 9 to 5.
Mhm.
So that's when I actually made the official switch to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and continue my passion with real estate, but now I'm also going to start a transportation service, which is a black car service.
Mhm.
So then I started that when I actually got back into the DC area. And from there, I just started to grow that. I started to get customers. I did a little.
I'm going to slow you down a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So you don't just say, I'm starting a transportation business and I'm going out there and doing it. So,
Okay.
because that would make you like some, magical person.
Right.
Well, I don't want to make people think that business is just a magical thing,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
not. So you
Right.
did something, you made a decision, obviously,
Right.
but then what were some of the steps you had to take to transfer your idea to reality?
Well, there was a couple things. Of course, now that I've getting myself and I'm remarrying, I have a fiance now. Now I have to have those conversations with my new future, right?
Mhm.
Of now that, hey, I want to move in this direction. You met me as a regular 9 to 5 person, making all this money. Now it's a different thing. You still okay with that? Is it still going to work? So I had to do some housekeeping things to
Right.
understand, like, okay, it had faith in me with this.
Right.
And then I had to take another risk to say, well, I'm going to need a vehicle to be able to start to do this. So, it might not be a big risk for some folks, but, then you have to spend, 50, 60K on a vehicle that you're going to hope that you're going to get a return in when it comes down to it. And then you have to go and say, well, I have to advertise. I have to now really get clients, and I used Uber at the time as a platform to start off to gain clientele and to actually then put my own touches when it came down to it. I didn't like the platform on how some drivers did things and things. I said, well, I want to be different. So I want to offer complimentary coffee or something, or early rides or things like that. Do different things I can kind of to make them, I want to come back to this company.
Mhm.
So I started kind of putting my customer service that I'm so big in, just like what I do with my tenants, to make sure they have proper properties and everything's functioning. I wanted to do that too for my customers with the sedan service. So as I slowly grew that, and it wasn't a quick just boom, it was, and it's still not a big boom, it's especially because then things were going okay, and then the pandemic shut down
Mhm.
everything. So once that happened, it's like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
But then I had this passion also, and things I always did with cooking.
Let's get to that in a minute. But let me
Okay.
ask you about, so when your real estate business, not real estate business, when your limo business began to slow down because of COVID, one of the questions I have is, were there any programs out there that you could lean on to get some financial support? Because I know everybody thinks that there was all this government money that was going around for small businesses. I don't know if everybody was able to get some. I don't know in your case, were you able to?
I was able to get some.
Okay, good.
Yes, I was able to get some. So that really helped. But the thing it just helped me to kind of sustain.
To keep the rent paid, not the rent, to keep the
To
bill
have some
paid.
type of income coming in
Yeah.
for something that I can't use,
Right.
and I can't do.
Right.
So that really helped. But at the same time, I had to shift.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I need to, not just sit here and not really do anything. What else can I really do? And then that's where the next business, kind of came into at the same time. So COVID also made some things really happen.
Okay, we're going to get into that after this break coming up. So stay tuned, stay with us. You're listening to Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor and my guest, Sean
Longley.
You know you are a hot one. We are lime, we are laugh, we are chat, we no chill, we are hot one. Temperature rise, beer vibes in ya, this a hot one. Link up, connect, does a sweat when you're the fun, the hot one. We gonna spice it up like fire.
Hello and welcome. My name is Carolyn Howell, and I'm the executive producer of the Caribbean Food Network, the newest and the most fabulous way to eat, drink, and think food, fun, anything culinary, travel, tourism, you name it, we're in. Right now, I'm standing in Cookology, or at least one of the Cookologies. Cookology is a fabulous recreational and professional way to learn how to cook. And isn't that what we all want to do? Eating is how we keep going. So in a minute, I'm going to introduce you to Maria. Maria is the founder and the owner of Cookology. We're so excited about our partnership and what the Caribbean Food Network is going to do. We can't wait for you to see. So sit tight.
Hey everyone, welcome to Cookology Culinary School. This is our location in Boston Quarter. We have been here since 2019. We have another one in Dallas Town Center. We've been there since 2009. We've been in business for 13 whole years, aside from the pandemic, which I did a lot of sleeping. But here we are. You want to look in? This is what you see when you come by Boston Quarter. It's fun. It's fun. It's potential fun. Everybody is looking to do something with their friends and family. So here is the front door. Follow the sign.
Style takes too long. I can't fit anything. I have nothing in this closet. Oh, I'll just stay home. I need to purge my closet. Oh, but not that dress. Yo, Taylor here. If you ever thought to say one of these phrases, then this show is for you. Join me at the Style Table, where we'll have candid and fun conversations about real women's style issues and wardrobe dilemmas. We will discuss solutions and ideas that will give you a big sigh of relief. You'll learn ways to save money, make money, and enrich the lives of others with the clothes in your closet. We're going to take the stress out of your style.
I'm setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level. Employed and Rising. I'm Art Taylor, your host, and with me is business owner Sean Longley, who has gone from a career as an electrical engineer to starting a business in real estate and transitioning from that to a business in transportation. And we're going to talk about Sean's latest passion, which is food. So Sean, tell us now what's going on with your catering work.
Well, I've always been someone who's back up. My family, my mom, hands down, awesome in the kitchen.
Okay.
I've been blessed to have the taste buds that taste these great food that comes out of the kitchen. My aunt owns a restaurant in Jamaica, so there's a lot of food in our family. So I've always been a cook, even growing up in the kitchen. I was probably one of the only guys that took home ec in high school and things like that. So I always had a passion for it. And I cooked for all my friends. And I just always did it. It was kind of more of a thing I just enjoyed doing it. But once again, it's like, well, my wife came to me one time and, first, for my birthday, she surprised me and she brought in a certified chef.
Oh, wow.
So I just popped up and came into the house and was just like, this person's in the kitchen. And basically my whole thing was I was going to be working with her, cooking my birthday meal with a bunch of my family members. So I started to have a relationship with this person because I have a passion for that too. And, she was just kind of like, you're good in the kitchen. If you want, you can be along as my sous chef. So then I started going on jobs and things with her, different clients. And then she's like, you want to prepare this. And then, she just knew that I had a real niche for it. And then my wife really just almost laid a gun to my head and said, look, you have a passion for this. You do good at this. You cook really well. I think you should really try to really move forward and try to do this. It's just like, okay.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Especially that your wife would say, that Tranisha would say, you need to do this. I can see this. I know you. This is what you could do. And that's awesome. Man.
Yeah. And honestly, that having that passion and that support is so critical. Yeah. And it means a whole lot, because it's tough. Yeah. It's really tough to really try to start these ventures and try to get things to stick, and really to be successful. So with her doing that, and then just person that I just started actually doing, things with, we've been friends now for all these years. I'm doing jobs and things with her, when it comes down to it. And now decided, you know what? I started doing even more investing into some things in Jamaica. And when the investors say, well, hey, you do a lot of cooking and stuff and food's really good, won't you open a restaurant? We need a restaurant over here.
Wow.
And I said, restaurant. You know, I was just thinking about, you know, just putting some pans together, sheet pans and some food, and y'all guys enjoy. But then once again, with all the things that I do, I'm big on customer service. So I would always complain with certain restaurants and certain things. It's like, no, it should be like this, it should be like that. And it's like, when I have opportunity now to actually give the people what they really like, all the complaints and things that I hear and this and that. And especially in my area, down the line, who knows, maybe I can do something in my area, because we are in a kind of a food desert when it comes down to it. It's a really good food. So yeah, so now I decided to, everything just kind of aligned. And I decided to say, all right, well, my wife is from Louisiana, family's from Jamaica. So I decided to have a Caribbean and Cajun restaurant.
Okay.
So
it was basically, the theme is from your family, basically.
yes.
Because there's lots of restaurants out there. How do you
Yeah.
distinguish yourself is obviously key.
Exactly.
It's got to be good food, but you want to have something that people might be looking for and they can't find.
Right. And I'm big on flavor.
Okay.
And we know the Caribbean food is flavor.
Mhm.
We know what, if you've been down in New Orleans and Louisiana, flavor, that gumbo and all those different flavors that you're getting on that stuff. You know, we're talking about the jerk chicken and all this other flavors and spice. So I said, you know what? Let's put that together. And I created some dishes that have some of those two things kind of intertwined together and some different things. And, you know, and I've been doing some launches and things at the house. So it's been going really well. So it's exciting.
Well, I tasted some of your wings.
Okay.
And they were
Okay.
dead on. I'm just saying.
Okay.
And so you can send some of those over anytime.
Okay.
And we'll get over there to get a more, a more well-rounded selection.
Right.
of what you put out there.
And one of the unique things that I'm doing with the restaurant is that they'll have, they have the chef's table, you have a private type thing.
Mhm.
And the one thing that I'm really excited about is that it's going to be an infused dinner
Okay.
that you actually can book and actually be infused with THC
Okay.
in Jamaica. So that's kind of a big thing that a lot of folks that kind of like and things like that. So really exciting, along with me having great flavor, but actually putting a twist to different things. And
Well, one of the things I'm learning from you, Sean, that I want to pull out for others to understand is that it seems like you're a big collaborator.
Mhm.
You collaborated with someone on your real estate work.
Mhm.
You collaborated, I suspect, with somebody on your limo
My
business.
cousin has a limo service,
Yeah, well, there
so
you go.
I was able to actually pull from him. He helped me kind of through his building my business. So
Well,
we
and
shared work together also.
And now on the food business,
Mhm.
you're collaborating with a chef.
Yep.
And you were able to find a way to weave your abilities and your interests into what that chef was doing.
Yeah.
And it worked out, and it's working out. And I just think that's something for people to really appreciate. Secondly,
Mhm.
I'm hearing from you is the importance of customer service.
Mhm. Yeah.
Trying to give people a little bit more maybe than they expected.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to put this out there. That's really important with businesses owned by people of color.
Mhm.
Because we're always told if it's a business owned by a Black person, there must be something wrong with it,
Mhm.
right? Don't
Yeah.
we get that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard that so much.
Yeah.
But yet, all businesses can underperform.
Yes.
Not every business is great, and it certainly doesn't have anything to do with color.
Right.
But it does seem that we, as people of color, have to be a little bit beyond in order to gain the trust, in some cases, of our customers. Once we got it, we're in.
Right. Absolutely.
But getting that trust can be really difficult. And I guess that's an important reason why your focus on customer service is so important. We can't get angry about it.
Mhm.
We just have to produce, right?
Right. And you're so right. Going back to collaboration.
Yeah.
Like I said, the chef, she owned her own restaurant, so she has experience in that. My aunt owns her own restaurant now in Jamaica. I have experience in that to do that. And I've learned over the years where you would think like, oh man, if I really do this myself, then I'm gonna get 100% of the profit. But if I do this, I gotta split it. But I realized that, you know what? you would think that it's so much better when you share the risk, because you can do bigger projects where you actually would get big rewards. A lot of my deals that I've done, especially real estate, I gain more money doing it with more people than trying to do a deal by myself. And I take on all the risk. And then I'm putting the family more at risk too, because I'm carrying more risk. So if you spread the risk out, okay, I end up getting more profit and less of the risk. And so it is, and then you have more minds there to kind of help when it comes down to it. So that right there has been something I've learned.
Yeah. I just think collaboration is so important because, as you said, you can accomplish more with others. It sometimes might take a little longer. You don't get to make every single decision by yourself.
Right.
But if you can find good people to work with, there's so much more you can do because they may have skills and abilities and talents and resources that you don't have. On the other hand, you may have things that they don't have, and together you can create value, right, that you would not be able to create alone.
Absolutely.
And I just tell people all the time, think about who you can work with on different things because you don't have it all. You're not ever going to have it all, and you don't need to have it all. What you need are people you can work with. And you need some discernment, I guess, to figure out who that is. So the last question I have for you on that score is, how do you go about selecting people to collaborate with? Are there particular traits or values that you look for in people or organizations that you want to work with? Or do you just say, I'm going to take a chance on it?
No, boy, that's a really, really, really good question. I think I asked my wife that question at the same time too. So I wonder why this person was willing to work with me. I think what has starting off early, I still am part of some of the same circles. So relationships are just really huge because it comes down to trust.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times with people, they're making these decisions because, this person has money or they can do this for me. But you don't have a relationship with that person to know this person when it comes down to it. So for me, that was really key. And I've learned doing business with people that I don't have a relationship with, you're taking a higher risk. And I have money that's out there that's still owed to me that I still haven't gotten. And that's because, I didn't do the vetting process to that and not just rush into things. Because I've learned that even with tenants, rushing, it's been sitting here, I'm not getting any money, I got to get a tenant in there really quick, but not vetting the tenant properly. It actually costs me way more money than it's sitting there not paying the rent, not paying the mortgage on it. And I've learned that too. So taking the time and actually vetting business partners, vetting tenants, vetting people that I'm going to be working with, all those type of things has been really key. And you can't just be worried about, I'm going to miss this deal, I'm going to miss this. Deals are coming every day, all day.
Are there like keys to? Are you looking for people who are like you, for instance? Because when people have to trust you too, right?
Right.
So what is it about you that you think makes people want to work with you?
Well, I think it's my character, and I think it's and what I can bring to the table, they can see, they can see that it's kind of like when someone says that when you're going for a job interview, and you say, okay, you have this degree in electrical engineering, or you have the certification in CISSP. If someone understands what it takes to get an electrical engineering degree, that shows you enough about that person already. Differential equations, linear algebra, Cal 1, Cal 2, Cal 3. To have the discipline to go through all of that, that always shows a character of someone already there. So that started from there.
Right.
It opens a conversation. So okay, let's talk to this brother. Let's talk to this sister. Let's see what's going on here.
Yeah.
So I think you're I think when it comes down to it, your background and your experience and your resume, I think it does speak a lot.
Well, look, man, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with us on this episode of Self-Employed and Rising. And it's just fun to get to know you this way. I mean, we're neighbors. We live a few doors down from each other. but you're going to see a lot more from me now, especially on this cooking thing.
Okay.
We
Definitely.
gotta eat, and we gotta definitely.
We'll do a 4 or 5 course meal one day. Just kind of put it
Oh,
together.
absolutely. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this edition of Self-Employed and Rising, and be around for our next episode next week when we have a new guest. It's been great. We'll see you soon.